Elena Lipson, welcome to Get Gutsy.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a long time coming, and here we are. How did you and I first even meet? Do we remember what?
Well,
Oh,
I yeah, you remember? Because I
I
couldn't
think
quite remember the
I
first
think it
time.
came in. It was when you reached out. I think I had known of you. You reached
Uh-huh.
out when you were contemplating, or maybe you had made the decision. I can't remember where you were
Um,
on that point, homeschooling your son.
Totally. Yeah, I feel connected to you prior to that. But I remember when I was thinking about homeschooling and freaking out a little bit, I knew instantly that I just needed someone who embodied what I was trying to create, which was entrepreneurship, ease and grace, still have my time for self-care. And oh, by the way, we're going to throw homeschooling into the mix here. And so I just saw you doing it so gracefully. And it was so generous of you to spend, I think we spent like an hour on the call. And you asked me one question that I asked myself in my business, but you asked it in a way that applied to the homeschooling that was so powerful for me. And it still lives in my heart really well. And it was, how can your business grow while you're homeschooling? And that just opened up the whole thing for me. So I just thank you for that. I think I told you that before. Maybe I didn't, so
Yeah.
I'm telling you
No, you
now.
did. I
But yeah, that's
remember.
the first conversation we had about a year and a half ago now, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm so glad. I remember. And I mean, that was the journey I had to go through with, if and when for any of our listeners tuning in, this is part of your path. I mean, for you and I, it wasn't like we set out for that. I mean, there's many that I've met like, oh no, that's what they wanted to do. They seeked out homeschooling. They thought it would fit perfectly within the entrepreneurship life, which it does. This kind of world lends itself well to be able to homeschool your children if you find that that's the right fit for them and that's in alignment with your family. But for those of us that was kind of like a happy accident, like myself, I mean, at first I felt like that's it. Like the business is done. Like, what am I going to do? Because it felt like this is how, I mean, that's like all consuming. This is all like, but it wasn't an option for me not to work. It wasn't an option for me not to have my business for several reasons. Most important, I really want to do this. This is who I am. And I'm so glad that we were able to have that conversation, and our children are thriving. How's it going on the homeschooling front? Let's just start there.
Going great. Honestly, I feel like even though it's not something I planned and it's not something we'll continue forever because he really is craving going into school again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good 2 years. And I feel like it happened at a time where the potential at that age, because he was 12, he's 13 now, he'll be 14 when he starts again, I think.
Okay.
I think he'll be 14, but I think he'll start again. That's the path
Okay.
so far.
We'll see.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, exactly. We'll see. But the really cool thing about it was, in this middle school age where the potential for going inward and having experiences in middle school that you just will never know about didn't happen. I mean, he still takes classes at a place and he still has his own life in that way, but it's only like 2.5 days a week. And he spends like, for me, we spend so much time together. And I feel like I know him so much better as a person than I would if he had been gone all day. And that's not to say that it's bad or good. I mean, he spent years in a school where I didn't see him all day, and I still feel like I knew him really well. But it's
Right.
been a real gift. He's my only child, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have another one coming up to occupy my attention and my time. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, I felt like because he's such a kid who's like he can be inward, like me processing, that it was a gift for us. So it's been
Yeah.
amazing, and really for me as an entrepreneur, to get very clear on what I spend my time on and how I spend my time and how I can be with him, and because he's older, he doesn't need me to do the little things for him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a real journey of learning for both of us. So thank you
Mm-hmm.
for that. And my husband too, he
Yeah.
loves it too.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be pleased to know I'm going to do an episode, heads up everybody, on homeschooling. Like, I've been asked so many times from so many people, whether they be connections online or people locally to me. And I love being able to provide this. And I said, you know what, let me just create like a piece of content around this. So at least put some of these larger themes and the questions and things that come up for people just out there publicly, because it is, however we choose to educate our children, they basically let us know what they need. That's been my experience.
Mhm.
it requires, consciousness and really sifting out how you want to handle it. And just to remember, it's a season. I have to remind myself of this still. Like, there's seasons to our life. We're not going to be, 20 years from now, totally different season. I mean, your son's, he's a teenager now. So it's like, there's only a matter of time before he goes into that next chapter of his life. So you talked about when that happened for you, you really had to get clear on how you were spending your time. So let's dive in there. Tell everyone really what the focus of your work is and what you're fired up about, and how do you spend your time?
Yeah, so my main focus has been for the last almost 6 years now is self-care coaching for women entrepreneurs, mostly moms. And what that means is that my biggest passion is to help you figure out how to manage your time, your energy, and your resources in order to be able to serve those that you love in your life. So my tagline that I've been using right from the beginning, I came up with it, like it just sort of came up. It's like, I just want women to be the number one asset in life, business, and the bedroom. And I said it, and I was in this mastermind group, and everyone's like, that's it. That's it. I'm like, I know. No, that's it. That's your tagline. Like, that's it. And that's really stuck over the years. And it really is. And the cool thing about having that as my tagline is because I pull self-care through your practices in your life, your strategy in your business, and what's going to help you to stay turned on and creative and connected in the bedroom, whether it's with yourself or with a partner, right? We need to be embodied. So I love all the topics. And over the years, it turned into a year-long program because, I started with like a 21-day course, and then that turned into like a group coaching thing. But more and more, the women just wanted to stay. Like, well, what else? Like, why don't we just do it for a year? And that was, I didn't know if anyone would come. I didn't know if they'd come back. And now we're in our 5th year, and we have these layers of alumni who've been there from the beginning. And what I really understand so deeply now is that we just want to be heard. We want to be seen. We want to know that we're not alone in all the things we're experiencing. So really, that's what my community has become about. And we talk about self-care, and we talk about, self-care is like in the middle. And there's all these topics that come off of it: relationships, sexuality, motherhood, managing your time. I have a whole month on intentional time practices. We have a whole month on relationships, because once you start taking care of yourself, I've literally had clients come back to me and say, well, I feel great, but my husband is like a mess because he just wants me to be there all the time, and I just want to go have a night out with my girlfriends. I'm like, I get it. I've been there. One of the first nights that I went out, like years ago, I'm like, I'm going to go. And I started a moon circle with local women, and I came back like 5 hours later. It was like midnight. And
you're buzzing. You're like, yeah.
I was so turned on. I was just like,
right.
Oh my gosh, it felt so good. And I came back, and my husband, who's amazing and supportive, but I think he was thrown a little bit how late I came home. And he's like, is this going to happen every time? And I just had this moment where I was like, well, I could say what he wants me to say, which is, oh no, I'll come home earlier. Or I could say, actually, it was like oxygen for me. So yes, it's going to be like that next time, and probably every time. And he's like, okay. Yeah. And that's a huge deal, because one of the things that I really, really want to empower women with, and this is, I'm writing a chapter in my book about this right now, is about voice. It's about that moment where you can answer in the way you think the other person wants to hear it, and you swallow your truth down and become ill over time. That's what I believe. The more we swallow our truth, the more our body starts to feel compressed. And to me, like, I can actually visually see it, like you're swallowing little bubbles of fear into your body, and bubbles of things that you really wanted to say in the moment but didn't. We all have that,
Right.
But I really believe that if we can have a woman who is feeling good in her body, who is speaking what she really needs to say, even when it's shaky at first, as a mom, as a partner, as a business owner, as a coach. Oh my gosh. I mean, I want to be that woman for people in my life, someone who's kind and honest. Like, that's what I want from me. I want to have those women in my life who can, just like you, when I called you, like, I recognized you right away. So I'm like, she's going to tell me how it is. Like, she's not going to tell me it's always amazing and wonderful and you're going to love every single minute of it. No, it's challenging at times, and you have to just come back to your practices. So I don't even know if I answered your
Love that.
question.
We did. It was so good. You were, and it was just, okay. And it was funny as you were talking about women using their voice and speaking their truth. I think it was on the last interview I just did. The topic of my mother-in-law came up, and I text, on my computer, I get like text notifications sometimes, and it was, she has a letter to the editor of the New York Times, going to be published tomorrow. Like, she sent it over. She's like, this might be in. She's been published. I mean, at this point, probably like 40 times. But she's an example of someone who uses her voice. And I remember when I met my husband, and my mother-in-law, she's a force. I mean, she is a force of freaking nature. She never needed to work for money. Okay, that wasn't like her dynamic. She pursued social justice causes, and she was an artist, and she's like super passionate about what's going on in the world. Okay, like so much so. She Jewish, born in Germany, Nazi rule, had to leave, they would have been killed, that whole thing. Like, she lived during the Holocaust. And she's taught me so much about using that voice and actually being interested in things, even if you don't feel like they, quote, affect you, And so that has been a real journey. Stephen and I talk about, conversations with a husband. And he was just saying, you seem to be spending like a lot of time getting into these stories about blah, blah, blah. And he didn't know me as that when we first got together. I wasn't that girl. I was a New York City girl, worked in my corporate job. We put on parties, and I had big corporate clients, and I was traveling around the world on the expense account. And I didn't have time for that shit. And I honestly just didn't care. I didn't care. I was just not in my awareness field. And now I've become so much more tuned in to what's happening in the world. And I do feel like it has a place in our businesses. This is really what my voice is connected to now as we move forward, is this whole idea of taking a stand and using our platforms for social justice and social change, and realizing that, let's be real, a lot of my guests are white women, like white women coaches, and we're blessed to be born in the USA. And a lot of us have privilege just by the color of our skin. And so what I really want to put out there is that we do have a responsibility to look at what's going on in the world, and to say, how can my work make a positive impact, not just within my community, people who maybe look like me or were born in the same place as I was, but beyond, beyond. And I want that message to really come out for our listeners, to say, when you find the work that you love to do, I mean, obviously you've been doing your work for some time now. It's so beautiful because you feel like, I've been doing this like forever, or for a long stretch. And then maybe it'll evolve into kind of a variation of this, or I'll add in a new layer. But we want to be tuned into the fact that we really grow as leaders the more that we tune into this voice and this opportunity that we have. And then, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's the core that we need to have so that we can sustain this work is self-care.
Totally. And it's funny because I was just having this conversation the other day, and I actually was not born in the US, and I came here when I was like 6. And
where are you from?
I'm from Russia. And
what? Were you born in Russia?
I was born in Russia, and my family was Jewish, and we basically had to leave. And we came through a wave of immigration where it was very difficult to leave. And we were, I know, I mean, I have family who didn't end up leaving, and then they had to come later. And so it wasn't like, oh, I think we're just going to go to the US and go live the dream. It wasn't like that.
It was hard to get here.
It was hard. Mm-hmm. And it was no money. You couldn't take anything. We literally had I mean, I love when I see women who have these things to pass on to their kids, or from their moms and their grandma. And
you left all that behind.
I don't have that. And that's fine. Yep. It's not like, well, it's me. It's just not my story. I don't have a little trunk of like baby clothes for myself that I could pass on. It's just not me. So I do have many other things to offer my kids and grandkids. But what it taught me was so powerful, because English was not my first language. And so I had to learn how to navigate in public school, not speaking English. And I remember that. And I remember many stories in my life where I was like, I felt like I wasn't the person in the room that was like everyone else. Or I felt like I could see things differently, or there's a different way to say this in a different language. And that affected, I think, who I am, not only as a Gemini, but as like a woman and a mother and someone who just didn't come from here. So I know that you can live other places and have just as full a life. And so that informs and infuses who I am. Like, just because your situation is like this right now, it doesn't mean that's how it always was or how it has to
Right.
be. Let's look
Right.
outside, not just outside the box, like
Right.
bust that box. Like there's so much more than that. So
Right.
there's a million ways to live. There's a million ways to communicate. There's a million ways to do your job. When I have clients, I'm like, we're not going to follow a 12-step program to get you to where you need to go. We're going to have containers for the process, but you're going to inform it as much as I'm going to witness you informing it and share what I
Yes.
see. And that
Yes.
has infused everything I do. And I've had to dismantle a little bit of the program that did happen as I came here. You know, as I worked in the corporate world, as I started a business and had to ask myself, well, how do I want to do this? And I'm kind of rebellious in that way anyway. I don't like criticism and I don't like advice unless I ask for it. But I've had to learn to humble myself and just understand that I do need help. And so that's been the wisdom of my age. So I've learned to do that. But for the most part, I think, you know, with the voice and with speaking up, especially, and I saw your new branding around Take a Stand, and I thought it was amazing. And I think it's what an important question. Like, what do I stand for? What would I stand for? And I think that I really resonate with, you know, your mother-in-law who maybe didn't have to work, but was affected so deeply by the whole, you know, idea and political situation where you might not be affected in the moment by the Nazi rule, but guess what? You know, their next target might be you, might be your family, might be your friends. So
totally.
I feel like we have that here. We have, I grew up in New York City too, so I'm sure we have a lot of stories we can share. But I do live in a place now that is it's less diverse in different ways. It's diverse, not as diverse as New York City in certain ways, but it's more diverse in other ways. Meaning like, here we are so connected to the earth and so connected to nature and so connected to like the Native American history.
Beautiful.
So it's kind of different. So there is still much awareness about what you would take a stand for, but it's not going to be the same topic as if you lived in Kansas or New York City or Washington or California. And people have to understand that. Like, I have two business partners that both live in California, and our conversations are so different sometimes because my worldview that's informed by what I'm around all day long is different from one who lives in like South LA and one who lives in Central California. Like,
and you're in Washington State?
I'm in Washington State. Yeah, north, like close to Canada. So our issues and what's on the news every day is different, just like theirs. But we have to be able to expand that, you know, turn that on to understand that it's not just what's in our little bubble. So I love that Take a Stand. I think it's, I take a stand for women, you know, being well and successful and feeling amazing in their bodies and giving them permission to speak their needs and desires. And so I do take a stand for lots of things. I always say, like, I feel like I activate the activists in a lot of ways. I wasn't raised as an activist. My mom, like, by far, my family was not in it at all. But that's not to say that I can't decide to, you know, be passionate about something and show other women that there are many ways to take a stand, whether it's signing, you know, a petition, whether it's speaking out in my work, whether it's reading a book that challenges me and talking about it to my circle of women or whatever it might be. There's so many issues, guys. Like,
there's so many. Like, just pick one. Pick one. And but look for the thread. You know, I've been talking about this in some of my other conversations, saying, you know, something that I love to do is be able to just charitably give, you know, through my business, and to really see, well, what is it that gets me fired up? And what is that thread? Is it I love, you know, education, and education can come in many forms. It's not just college. It's education, getting stronger, getting smarter, getting informed about what's going on, and realizing that you are, like you said, we're the number one asset. And so for me, it's education, it's women's entrepreneurship, it's, you know, just really following, bringing families back together. You know, we had that situation, which is heartbreaking, families getting separated at the border. And there's that organization, Glennon Doyle, and that her sister, and I know there's more involved in that, but it's called Together Rising. And I was watching this video the other day. They showed this video of I think was he 9? I want to say he was a 9-year-old boy, had been maybe less, maybe he was 6. It's somewhere young, you know, under 10. And he was separated from his family for 9 months. 9 months. And they showed the, the reunion going on in the airport. I'm like hysterically crying watching this video, like, like can barely breathe, and going, that's it. I'm going to make a donation Together Rising. And I was doing a workshop and charging an online workshop, just charging a nominal amount. I said, that's it. I'm giving 50% of the proceeds from that. And I'm going to take it and I'm giving it to that. I'm giving to that. That's what I'm doing. And so, how can we infuse that? And for a lot of women listening in too, this can get you fired up, because then you can, when you really need to up the ante with your promotions, putting it out there, come out of hiding, because a lot of women struggle with that, the hiding. Oh no, if I share it one more time, they might get mad. I'm always like, who's they? Who are these they people? Yeah. And so going, it's not about me. It's not about me. I'm gonna, you're gonna help more people. And then if you have some kind of tie-in to a cause that you're really fired up about, it can get you out of your head and get you into action. And that helps everybody. You hiding serves nobody. I love what you said about activating the activist. That's good.
Thank you. And that's what I believe too, because that's where I'm drawn to. Like, I feel if I work with a woman and she's activated to her purpose and she starts creating that to me feels like I'm doing what I'm here to do, whether it's working with a client or posting something or sharing something. I think people get so caught up in feeling like they have to do it a certain way, right, or it has to be perfect, or, really just comes down to being confident in your value and worthy of having a voice. And for so long, women did not have a voice. And I look at my own mom, who, really had to sacrifice so much for my sister and I to have what we have. And her mother before her, who lost 2 sons in the war, and her mother before her, who, again, you just go back, and we're not as disconnected as I feel from my lineage and ancestry, because I don't know them. Yeah. I could just close my eyes and just go back and wonder what was it like for them. Probably 100,000,000% different from what I'm experiencing. Yeah. Oh, sure, I think I'll get up today, and I think I'm going to go for a 2-mile run and step off in Zumba today. And then I'm meeting with my partner, and then we're going to I'll have breakfast. And I have freedom 1,000,000% more than any woman in history might have had. And I don't take that for granted for a second. Right. And that drives me. And it's like, if I stop doing what I'm doing, I'm doing a disservice, because I know I've been doing this long enough to know that people are watching, and good people are watching. People who just need to hear that thing or see you do that thing, or honestly, not perfectly, to say, wow. And then they tell you, a year later, you said this one thing, or you did this one thing, or you made this one offer, or I'm ready to work with you, and I'm so excited. And you just, you don't have to. No one has to do the work. Right. But life is so much richer and better. And I just feel like we have these little universes that we live in. And if we can just connect with another and another and another, that ripple effect of me showing up, lit up, excited, speaking in a way that is just me. I don't know what I'm going to say that's going to inspire one of your listeners to be like, oh, totally resonates. I'm going to go do this thing. And that's why I think self-care, and again, I see self-care at the very beginning stages of work, like a woman who starts to do entrepreneurship or school entrepreneurship, whatever combination, you have to make that time to feel into what you desire. But then I see it on the other side of the spectrum. I work with women who are already sort of there, making that money, doing the work, and they're exhausted, and they're burnt out, and they're overwhelmed, and they're just doing incredible work, but they're also not feeling well. And it's just this cycle, constant cycle. I just had this conversation with a woman who's creating worldwide incredible events, just insanely beautiful. And she got the sickest she's ever been in the last year while she was creating this incredible work. And finally we had this conversation. She's like, I hear you, Elena. I've been hearing you for the last year. I just don't even know what to do about it. So we basically had to, we talk about this, the bigger your vision, the bigger your capacity, the bigger your container, the more self-care, not the more work, not the more hours, the more support, the more physicality in your life, the more emphasis on health and wellness, because you have to. When Arianna Huffington came out with her book, thrive, and then sleep.
Thrive.
And sleep was the next one, which when she came out with it, I'm like, thank God. Like, no one needs to lean anymore. Like, give me a freaking break. We're already leaning. We're leaning so far. We're falling off the cliff. Give me a break. We're not like, but when she said that, when she's like, she gave her visual example of her falling and hitting her head, and she's like, what the hell am I doing to my body?
Yeah.
Her brain was on fire, creating incredible things, but her body was collapsing.
Yeah.
How many women have to get sick before we have to get it, like finally get it? So even though I feel like I talk about it all the time, which I do, I feel like everyone should know, which they don't. So that drives me, that's my job.
That's your job. That's your job.
Need it. Yes.
Totally. And I want our listeners to take that in. It's, you're getting sometimes sick of what you're saying way before your people are even getting it.
Totally.
So just keep talking about it.
Yes.
But that's why you have to love it so much. You have to love it, because you are kind of going to get sick, and you're like, dude, I've been talking about this for years. You have to have all gotten it by now, or be people like, it's like just penetrating. And I think for those of us who are teachers, we're visionaries, like you said, the bigger your vision, the more self-care. I love that. I feel like our brains work at different levels. Like, we see things way further ahead than maybe other people can, especially those who want to work with us there. What I find from my people, they're often just a few steps behind me. So I'm like, oh yeah, like, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, hold on, I'm over here. And so I have to slow my roll a little bit. Just like, oh yeah, okay, let me come back with you here and remember what it was like to be there. I see what's going on over here. But then I need to ensure for myself, and I'd be curious to hear from you, that I'm in those rooms with people who are where I am, where they're advanced in their businesses, or they're at this really interesting leadership place. I work with leaders, and I adore my people. And, what I experienced last year, I'll share it here, is like the last 2 years, I led 4 retreats 2 years in a row. Okay. So like 4 retreats in 2017, 4 retreats in 2018. I got kids, homeschool, the whole thing. And so I didn't really have time to go do things for myself. I was delivering, I was leading, and my inner voice said to me towards the end of last year, that jig is up. Like, you're all there. Like, you're complete. This way of leading, you did what you wanted to do. You learned. It was incredible. Like, my retreats were so fantastic. I love retreats. When you love retreats, you're like, this is so great. But then we have to ensure, and this is a self-care point, that we're then filling our own cups. I needed to ensure that my container was growing. And so this year I totally redesigned things. A few weeks back, I attended an incredible event with just women who blew my freaking mind, because they were so far out with these ideas, and they were from different industries, and they just, one woman gave me an idea. I was like, oh my God, I just changed my business.
Wow. I love that. If you go to that again, because I saw where you went.
Yes.
Ooh, I love her. And I really would have loved to be in that room.
November, girl.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've signed up. Come meet me there.
Okay. Give me a link. I'm hosting a retreat actually in November in Mexico. Okay. But if it works.
It's early November, 5 and 6.
Yeah, it might. Just let me know. Because
totally.
That's really cool. And
good. Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I think it's so important to be in the room with women like that. And so I want to go back to what you were saying, which is, you looked at your business, you were hosting the retreats, and I love that. The jig is out, like, no more. It worked when it started. It served a purpose. You learned a lot. You grew. You had amazing clients. It's just not working anymore. And that's such an important permission to give yourself, to say, I don't have to do what I did last year in a way that I did it. And if I do want to do it again, because maybe I do love hosting retreats so much, what if I did it in a way that, either I get my support, or maybe I host it in a place where I don't touch any details. I just show up. Maybe that's a way I do it. Maybe I do it in a way where my own coach actually challenges me, and she's like, okay, what if you arrived 2 days earlier to anything you went, had some time for yourself, and didn't leave right away, spend another 2 or 3 days afterwards? What do you need to do in your own life to, like, there's a runway, right?
Yes.
A plane doesn't just go from sitting on the runway to flying, right?
Absolutely.
A plane has to do all the checks. A plane has to clean up and fill the refrigerators.
That's a game changer. For those of y'all who lead retreats, I led one in Tulum last November, and it was the first. I always get there at least a day early, and that was the first time. This is a self-care move. I'd always
Mm-hmm.
stay like a day later. Okay. And these retreats were like 5 nights. So they weren't like little quickies, you know? So it was, again, leaving home, organizing all of that. I got 3 kids, you know, the whole deal. And the one day wasn't enough. I said to myself, I need more than that. You know, because it was, and we ended like that. Yeah, it was like we'd end early one morning. So I was like, I'd always stay like that day. And then a lot of my clients would too. And I love my clients. We'd end up hanging out or having a meal together or something. And then I said, I need another day. I need another day just for me.
Right.
Without having anything on my schedule, without needing to hook up with anyone, like just for me. And that was the game changer. I just walked down that drag of Tulum. I like went on a date with myself. That's how I felt like, what do you want to do today, Jenny? You just led this amazing deal. But what I did this year was I combined. I said, I was kind of all these separate. I was like, you know what? I'm going to have one kind of flagship thing, which is Take a Stand Live, which is brand new, never done it before. And so I'm putting what used to be kind of like 2 separate offerings. It's going to go into one thing. And then I'll decide if and what I want to do in the fall. I'm kind of just keeping that open. Sometimes we need that openness. And that is the self-care. It's like, maybe, the last year you did all these different things and it worked really well, but there's something your soul is calling out going, I just need to be done with that. I need to open up and move into that void of, I don't know, like, we'll just see. I'm going to feel into it. Right.
I love that. And that's such a feminine way of working in your business, whether you're a man or a woman. There's masculine energy and there's feminine energy. And I think to create, because once you're in the retreat, you're like in masculine energy. You're waking up, you're going, you're in it. And what I would say is surround it with feminine energy, right? Both on the outside of it, meaning like just all the self-care things that you imagine, like, you know, get extra time, get a massage, get your energy right. So you're showing up. So you're not showing up and you're like skidding into the room. You're like, okay, I'm here. Where's that? Who's here? Yeah. Wait, you know, you don't want that energy. You want to sort of float in or already be in the room when people walk in. Just the metaphor of how that works. But the day has to have that rhythm for the in breath and out breath kind of feeling for the people there. And then afterwards, I think the piece that people so often miss, both in the daily cycle, in the quarterly cycle, in the yearly cycle, and at a retreat, is the integration and celebration piece. So that builds it in for them because you just invested in yourself. You just did this. Like you took out of your life. Let's celebrate that, which I'm sure you do.
Yes.
But then also yourself, like, I just did this again and it was amazing. And I'm going to like really celebrate myself. And so I can so I can change on a cellular level. And when I show up next, I am no longer the person who didn't do that. I'm now the person who did that and rocked it or made mistakes and learned or pivoted because I saw what was happening or whatever happened, you become the person who did that. And then because, you know, it's all about being, everyone could do the same things. People want to host retreats. But they don't do it or they don't offer because they don't think they have anything to teach or whatever, but you're doing it. That's a huge deal. And someone who's been doing it for a while, you can sort of lose a little bit of that miraculousness of it, of having it all come together and doing it like I am doing this. You know, like that piece of integration is so important. From your first post to your first live, to your first whatever, to your first retreat, to your first speaking thing, to your book, to waking up and going to Zumba. Like I did that day. I woke up and I said I would and I did, and I feel amazing. And guess what? I show up better because of it. All the way to, damn, we just hosted our 3rd retreat and it was awesome. And we're going to do that again. And, you know, we need to really integrate and become the person who just did that thing.
Yes.
Didn't do it. Acknowledge it and integrate that too and become the person who chooses differently next time. Both is self-care. Like this is like
so good.
Self-care business conversations we have all the time because we just feel like we have to go until it works. But guess what? It's not working. Like you're collapsing, your relationships are suffering. You haven't played with your kids or had a good orgasm in months. Like, let's not forget that. That's why the bedroom is on the tagline too, because if you're not giving and receiving to your body, guess who's showing up? You. to that thing that you're trying to do, that you still feel so contracted and, so.
Totally. And I feel like,
that.
I mean, it's just like, let's just dance, but your work, and I want everyone to really take this in, like the self-care, it allows you to be more magnetic out in the world. Because, you can go, instead of, I got to write another email, or I got to that's that masculine energy. I got to do more. I got to prove myself. I got to be one step ahead of everybody else. And can we just be in that receiving? Can we say, you know what, I'm going to get a massage, or I'm going to go ride on my Peloton bike, or I'm going to go take a hike with my dog, or I'm just going to take a bath, dude. Like, I'm just going to go do that. That makes you so magnetic, because you have this energy of, this goddess. Like, you're this woman who knows that your craft is fantastic. Like, there's nothing you need to prove, but the business world is not easy. It's not this cakewalk. It's not like, oh yeah, no problem. But like you said, I mean, look at your ancestors. Like, whatever we have that's hard right now, let's put it in perspective of what it used to be. Could women have a freaking online business a generation ago?
It's amazing.
I mean, come on.
Yeah,
we could be having this conversation. This was a long distance phone call.
This is like magic. Do you remember? I think we must be around the same age. Like, when I was little and they showed us those phones with the picture like on it that you could see the person you're calling.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was like spy watch stuff.
Right.
It's crazy. So
I mean, answering machines were a big deal. Answering machine
with the tapes, cassette tapes in it, right? Where you recorded the message on one tape and the other tape was the
yeah.
That's crazy. I know we're totally dating ourselves, but honestly, this feels like magic to me, because like the fact that I can literally walk around with this and run my business from anywhere, it's quite cool, right? And the other, like, I remember, so I started as a coach while I was still in the corporate world, like many of us do. I was a corporate trainer and sales and all that kind of stuff. But I saw someone who was doing coaching, this woman named Rachel Lewis, I think her name was. She was an author, and they basically brought her in for our management team to do a training. I'm like, I want what she has. What is that? Like, I was always waiting for escape from corporation. I just didn't know how to do it. Yep. And I saw what she did, and I was like, that. So I hired her to coach me. I hired her for my husband, actually, because he was going through a transition. I asked my boss to hire her to teach me things in the corporation, which is kind of cool. So I was really involved with her, and I'm like, this is what I'm doing. And basically she helped me to sort of build my coaching business. And I remember building my first website, tying this back around. I remember building my very first website, and it was like, it was called North Star Coaching, under the umbrella of True North Training, because that's like just what I wanted people to do, was come back to themselves and really understand who they are. That's what I've always wanted to do. And my very first newsletter that I sent out was called 10 Extreme Self-Care Tips. Talk about synchronicity. Like, I didn't even know 20 years later I was going to be teaching this full time.
This is your thing.
I know. And so I had built that website, HTML, the entire thing. It took months, right? I had to, like, it was crazy. But today, literally, you can press a button and the entire website gets built.
I know. It is. So it's nuts. It's awesome.
Deep gratitude. We can do such amazing things, and all it takes is a decision.
That decision.
Stand for you to do for yourself, right?
Yep.
And to just take amazing care of yourself, because you are now the person showing up. It's very different. There's no, like, I don't know, there's no hiding anymore. You can be an introvert. I have amazing clients who are so introverted, and that's
Yes.
teach women how to be introverted leaders.
Yes.
And so whether you're introverted or extroverted or activist,
you live in a city, or you live more in a rural area, or it doesn't matter. It's just no more excuses, ladies. We need more wealthy, empowered women getting out there, taking a stand, bringing your work out there to higher and higher levels, and trusting that you deserve to be paid really well. You can design it the way that you want to, what you need to do for your family at this stage, and just freaking do it. Just do it. Oh my gosh, you're such an incredible woman. You're very gutsy. I want to know, this is our finale question, and I'll let people know how they can find you. What's the gutsiest move you've ever made, and how does it inspire your life and work today?
I feel like I've made a lot of those, especially as an entrepreneur and a mom. I feel like the first really, really gutsy thing I did was when I was about 19, and I was dreaming about moving to California from New York for the longest time. My sister had moved there, and I just I felt the voices of like, how could you leave New York and you leave your mom? Like all these three things, Right. And one day my boss actually asked me, I was telling him again, I'm like, oh, California is amazing. It's great. I'm going to go there again. And he's like, why don't you just move there? What's holding you back? And it's like, I'm like, well, nothing really. And he's like, so? I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going. Like literally, I made that. I mean, it wasn't a minute decision. It had been percolating for a while.
Sure.
So that day, I went home and I bought a one-way ticket to California. I subleased my apartment to a friend, sold everything that went with it. I literally took like one crate that my dad helped me pack. He was still alive back then, and one luggage, and off I went. And it changed. Obviously, it changed everything.
Yeah.
Every move does. Staying changes everything.
Does.
Going changes everything. It's like I was just having this conversation with my husband. Like, you choose one country, you leave another. You choose one relationship, you don't have the 100 others. Like you can't. I just don't live with regret in that way at all, because I just feel like there's a multiverse of opportunities, and when you choose one, the other is closed, and that's okay. And then you can go back and choose another, and those
absolutely.
And that's just a choice we have, right? So that's the gutsiest thing I did. 30 days to move across country, sell everything. All I could eat for the last 3 days was like mango smoothies, because I was so physically nervous. Like I couldn't even chew food. I'm like, I just can't even eat. I think I lost 10 pounds in those like 3 days. It was hard. It was emotional. It was hard, but it's I could, I did it.
You did it. You did it. And it's like, yeah. And I like asking this question of my guests, because it's fun to remember, and say, what was it for me? Yeah. And then it's a great reminder for everyone tuning in that we all have these gutsy moves. And so once we get, we hit up against these next levels in our work, oh gosh, I'm going to do this new project, or I'm going to have my own retreat, or I'm going to really get out there and take my work to another level, or reach out to people to collaborate, or to invite them into my program. And, we hit up against fear, and there's resistance there, but look back to what those gutsy moves have been in your life, because you'll remember, I'm freaking strong. I mean, when I set my sights on something, I go for it. And when it's in your highest and best good, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You're going to be met with some challenges. That's life, but you'll do it. You'll do it. Where can people find you? Where do you want to take them?
The best place is on social media. I hang out on Instagram a lot. I do stories all day. So Elena_Lipson. Okay. I'm on Facebook. You can just find me as well. And then ElenaLipson.com in case you forget those, and you can find me. Cool. Find all my stuff there. And I've streamlined it quite a bit. So it's not like a lot of stuff.
Good.
Go there, find me, what I do.
Self-care. She's your self-care girl. Exactly. And we will have this all on our show notes page. Just go check it out, jennyfennig.com. You'll find our podcasts are all on our blog, and you can go in and search for this episode or Elena, and you will find all these juicy details. Oh my gosh, I feel just reinvigorated after this conversation.
Thank you. I do too. Oh, I have a podcast too, by the way.
Oh yes, tell people. That's right.
I'm like, yes, my podcast.
Yeah.
I just recorded the 94th episode, and I'm getting ready to celebrate 100. It's so exciting.
It is.
Divine Self-Care Meditations and Musings, and it's wherever you listen to podcasts. You can let me know you're listening, because it's all about self-care. Literally, like we talk about sex, we talk about mothering, we talk about
all the things,
business, we do meditations. So all things self-care.
Awesome. I love it. I love it when I see, I have the most amazing women on who are talking about the things they're putting out in the world. And it's like, that's just it. We're using our gifts. We're using our voice. There's no reason why other people can't do this. And what's so cool, these tools, a lot of them are really cheap or free. Okay. Or if they cost something, it's like, you know what, you move in your business, and it's like, of course that's a cost of doing business. So everybody take it seriously, do the freaking work, make sure you're taking care of yourself, because as you said so beautifully, the bigger the vision, the more self-care. I think that's the name of this episode. That's one of my favorite parts, is I go back and I listen for gems throughout the conversation. I take notes. That's how I kind of process. And I'll look, I'm like, oh, the gems, like little beams of light that come out. Right.
Well, thank you so much, Jenny.
Yes, it's been a blast. Oh my gosh, everyone go check her out. Thank you so much for being here. This is Jenny Fennig sending you so much love, magic, and confidence as you get gutsy. I'll see you next time.